Hey guys! Welcome to Talk Tuesday, a series dedicated to empowering youth and families. This series is brought to you by Steps Foundation Incorporated, where advocacy meets education for the betterment of young minds. Each month, we explore meaningful topics designed to inspire growth, spark creativity, and equip our listeners with the tools they need to thrive. I'm Maya Tasker, your host and peer educator at Steps Foundation Incorporated. This month, we're focusing on a topic that can be sensitive but is so important: mental health awareness. Mental health isn't just something that exists in the background, it's a part of how we feel, think, connect with others, and move through the world. And yet, many of us are still learning how to talk about it, understand it, and care for ourselves and those around us. This month, we're opening the door to honest conversations about what mental health looks like, how to get support, how to care for your mind like you would your body, and how we can all play a role in breaking the stigma that keeps too many people silent. Mental health matters. Your feelings matter. And you're never alone in this journey. Let's dig in, learn together, and support one another in every step of the way. Over to you, Amaya.
Hi, everyone. So, my first question is, how can schools better support students in seeking mental health help?
I think a really great way to start spreading that information that help is there is probably from putting up little posters or doing social media campaigns. I think the hardest part in figuring out like how to spread that information is just like knowing that it's there. A lot of students might not be aware of the kinds of activities or the kind of resources that they have at their disposal. So I think it would be a good idea for schools to take that initiative. It can be a poster on the wall, it can be, a sticker in the bathroom, whatever it may be. Sometimes all you need to do is read it once, and then it kind of stays in the back of your mind? Just a thought.
Come on, Smith. I see you.
Man, I've been gone a minute. Welcome in. I feel good. I feel good. Yeah, I think just to follow up on that real quick is to be mindful of the fragility of young folks and a little bit of apprehension to share some things because you don't know how it's going to be received. Maybe like have a anonymous drop bag or a drop box or something where there's no name attached, because again, we are in 2025. We are allegedly the most progressive country in the world, but there's still a stigma that is attached, and nobody wants to carry that weight around on top of what they're already carrying around. So I think like having announcements that or campaigns or some kind of public push to say, hey, the school is doing this, or the community is working with the school, or whatever the case is. But then at the same time, have it some has to be somewhere where people feel comfortable sharing those things. Like, what are we going to talk about? We got a request to talk about this. Okay, great. Now that person's not put like, oh, XYZ asked for us to talk about this, right? And then also, um, just being mindful that some things may not be for public forum settings that young people or anyone wants to talk about. So, like, you can have the campaign say we're going to do this, but then what are you offering on the individual, like, anonymous helpline? I don't know. That's doing a lot, I guess, for school. I'm not sure, but I think having somewhere where people feel safe sharing is a very big thing. And I don't know what that looks like in schools, but I'm pretty sure it's doable. It's going to take some time. And then the last thing I'll say to add to that is being a youth football coach for decades now. I really get I young people, if you're listening to me, please be involved and engaged. I It irritates me when I show up to meetings and it's just a bunch of old people talking about what young people need. It's like an echo chamber, and we need young people to be at the forefront. I don't hang out at the skating rink. I don't hang out at the skate park. I don't hang out at the mall. I don't hang out there. I don't have, we and I don't deal with social media, TikTok, and I'm not on these platforms where some of these things can arise. It is important that young people have a say in how to facilitate the resources. That's a very important step. How do the resources get facilitated in service to the people and not, hey, come to this group meeting and we're all going to sing Kumbaya at the table. A lot of people ain't for that. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's important, one, like I said, have an anonymous setting, and then two, have young people involved in the facilitating of the resource.
You touched on two major points that I was going to make, and I love it because the first one, when we talk about schools and how schools can be a support to our students, a lot of times it just starts with listening. Rather than us trying to come up with all the answers for students, sometimes we just need to listen because they're essentially telling us what they need in that moment. But I feel like a lot of times, especially when you walk into some school settings, the school day is very busy. It is a very busy day. It is comprised of 25 different things happening at the same time. And so I get it. As an administrator, as a teacher, sometimes it's hard to set aside that time to listen, but at some point we have to. If we're saying that we're showing up for these students, if we're saying that we're there to help guide them and support them, we have to learn to listen to them. I love the other part of what you said, Smith, which is huge in what we do here with the foundation, is allowing the students to be that voice behind the change that they desire to see. That's what it's all about, because you're absolutely right. And it, Amaya, you're gonna know this one very well. It grinds my gears. You know what your mama say. She's like, you ain't have to do me like that. But it does, it really irks me when you see a bunch of people sitting at a table and they're saying, we're making these decisions in the best interest of the youth, but now one youth was involved in any of those things. And I get it. I know as adults, we want to act like we got all the answers. We don't. We got the answers for us. But for the youth, we don't always have the answer. We don't always have the right answer. We don't always have the proper answer. And so why are we not allowing these youth to sit at the table and share what it is that works for them? And with that being said, I know some of my youth is on, and I would love to hear from y'all. Like, what is it that you feel you need to be supported in school when it comes to mental health? Like, what are things that you wish you could see at your school? Y'all, like, don't put us on the spot.
Hey, but while y'all thinking, I do want to just follow up to what you said, sis, about adults being busy, whether it's teachers, parents, faculty, admin. So if we're talking about in school, again, being mindful that everyone is not the outspoken extrovert. I think young folks, listen to me, and if it moves you, move on it. And that is do they still use Kahoot? Am I using the right word? The app Kahoot?
Yeah, some of them do. Yep.
Okay, young inspiring coders or gamers, if you will. How about we create some kind of like Kahoot? So teachers, when you come into the classroom, you can log in and just put something like a emoji of a smiling face, a sad face, or something to kind of let the teacher know, hey, listen, this is how I'm feeling today. Oh, okay. Now the teacher is not putting you on blast and maybe can circle back. Hey, I seen, you wasn't really feeling well today. Like, is there anything I can do? Would you like to go to a wellness room or something like that? But man, I gotta think we live in an age right now where people don't have to feel exposed and vulnerable in a time of need. And I'll share the story really quick. I think it's important because you never know the effect you have on people, or your role in someone's life. And teachers do that without knowing. It's inherent to the job. But again, they're busy. There's 30 kids in the class or whatever the case is, But what if it took that one app that teacher had a long evening because teachers have families. They get in there, they want to get everybody going, because we got this test and and they just overlook that not a sad face, but just a melancholy face of that one student. What if that overlook can be overcome if we just had a simple check-in? Every student comes in, boop, happy face, boom. Now it's a reminder, teach. Okay, let's make sure we circle back to student A or whatever the case is. Again, so young folks, take that and when sis puts these opportunities out there, I think this is a great time for ingenuity, for advancement. We live in a time right now when young people can actually create apps, create resources on their own to help yourself or to help your friends. So I just want to throw that out there because it has to be some way that can happen.
I think probably like a great way to channel all these ideas would be through a student council, right? I mean, it might be a little bit hard to get an input from every single student in the school, while that may be useful, it's kind of hard to narrow it down to what can we actually do, like as staff to support our students. So I think if your school has a student council, that would be something to run by them. Because that's like, I mean, that's like a pretty decent group and they're like the representatives of the school, so might as well like use it for what you can. And if you don't have one, maybe it's a good idea to implement one. It's like a great resume builder. It's like a people skills builder. All that is fun. You get to do a whole campaign. Um, but also like it could be really useful for things like this because we're not always gonna have like answers to the questions. Like Abby was saying, like it's just hard to figure it out when you're not a child. Our needs are different. Like times are changing. I don't know how we can use social media to help them. Like they probably do. How do we, start that? Yeah.
So I think that's a fabulous, fabulous point you just made. And so when we talk student council, you're probably talking about the apex uh extroverts. They don't mind being out front, right? So it's maybe a challenge for them to understand how someone else can't do that, right? So if we go back to the original question, how can schools implement that? I think this is a great time for that student council to say, hey, school admin, we should have one day out of the month where we come together as an entire school. We all have lunch together, or we just have a giant picnic outside. And the reason I say that, young people, and sis, maybe you can help me out with this because I want to make sure I frame it the right way. Um, I've heard and I've seen in my years many times when there's a particular student that tragically loses their life at any particular school for any particular reason. And then you hear a lot of people, some of the students, oh, this person was a nice person, or this person was a nice person. But they never got a chance to see what was going on inside of that nice person. And I know I had that incident when I was in school. We had a person do something like that. And you know, I didn't know that person. If you're in a big school, I mean, if you have 500 people in your school, that's a lot of people. So imagine if we kind of create an environment where you really do get a chance to meet and know your fellow student. You know what I'm saying? And then we can create this environment where, listen, I know we're all different and we're doing something different, but I want you to know it's okay to feel comfortable to ghost to someone or do something or share your thoughts. I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling, but I'm really just trying to put out there like school is a big place. And there's plenty of opportunities if admin had the input of young people and maybe community stakeholders to say, hey, listen, we're going to have this every month on this day, on a Friday afternoon, or and we're just going to hang out on the grass and whatever. Again, I don't know, just some things to answer the question, like how do schools do that? I think school has to be an environment that is safe first and foremost. Because if it's not safe, there will be no learning. Not for everyone, anyway. It has to be safe. And number two, what I learned, it has to be welcoming. Like you really got to feel like you're wanted there, like people care for you, like they want you there. So again, I know I'm rambling, but these are the things that's on my mind because I'm not young, but I hear these words from young people, and then
Mhm.
I'm just sharing
Mhm.
what they've told me.
Agreed, agreed. I saw you unmute, Lamar. Come on.
So yeah, I definitely agree with those points. And what I would like to add on is that it's not just having that space, you have to have that collaboration, because if everyone's not willing to collaborate and come together on it, then there's like no point in having that, because it's really a group effort on that. So you can't just have like one person. You have to like make it widely known and have that wide agreement on it, because for certain kids, and I speak about this from like experience from knowing some of these kids, it's not really gonna work due to the personality and how they approach certain people. So like you have to like realize who who's gonna work and how can we make this work for the most amount of people, because everybody's not the same, and gotta make it as you gotta make it as good as possible for everyone in the area.
I love those points. And this takes me back to when you guys had first brought up student council or student government for some schools, right? And Smith, even you brought up the fact of, your extroverts. And then you was trying to figure out how did you include those introverts in that process, right? A lot of times it goes back to that first idea that you had about having that anonymous Dropbox for those students who don't want to be recognized. They don't want to stand up in front of 1,000 people. They don't want to share what they're going through with others. I think those drop boxes are super important because it allows them to give their input, allows them to give that opinion without feeling like they got to stand in front of a room to do it. And I think that's important for our introverts to also build that self-confidence and knowing that they made a difference, even if it was just dropping that note in the box. For some students, it's easier for them to write down their ideas and thoughts and feelings than it is for them to talk to a person about what they're thinking and what they're feeling. And so this is where all the things kind of come together, right, to help build that school environment. And all of the ideas can work. It's just a matter of who those students are and if that's what they want. So again, as adults sitting on the platform, right, and sharing what we think is possible, it only works if they want it. So this is where those students now have to come to the table and say, this is what we think will work best for us and our constituents. This is what's going to work for us and our peers. This is what's going to work in this space right now where we are. But I love all those ideas. And if you're a school administrator, a school teacher, a student at a school, I hope you listening so you can go back and talk about the things that you feel would help make a difference in your school, because that's what it's all about. In order for us to help you, you have to tell us how to help you. Stop letting people make decisions on your behalf.
And I think, to highlight young bro Lamar was the collaboration part, right? And the buy-in. I know the original question is like, how do schools do it? Well, what is the student accountable for? You have to buy in. Students have to buy into it. And that's, again, that's a slippery slope. So that's a great point, Lamar. We sit here as adults and we spitball a lot of things across the board and this, that, and the third. But at the end of the day, do the students buy in, and are they willing to participate? So that's a very, very, very big challenge. And I don't have the answer for that. And I wish I did. But thank you, Lamar, for bringing that up, because, again, we can sit here and have the best roundtable advice forever. But if students don't want to buy in, then it's just not going to work. And then there has to be
I'm gonna high five you, because we don't have to have the answer, Smith.
Right.
Students have to
right. And that's okay. And to Lamar's point, then see the great thing when we have young voice and power is the potential to take things to a different place that old folks aren't accustomed to or maybe don't know about. So what Lamar just did was open up his own avenues to explore now. And whoever else is listening can now take that. Because that's what you do. Like, you know, um, necessity breeds ingenuity. And if the question or the challenge is buy-in, then as a collective, young folks, how do you get, because like Lamar said, like the majority of the students, if it's not helping anyone, it's not helping no one. So how do we get it so it's fully representative of the entire school population?
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. This is great.
These are very
Lamar, you're going?
I definitely think that
I saw him on mute.
the
But yeah, those are really good answers. I think what you guys said about like students being involved or like having a voice about it, it made me think about that movie Freedom Riders, which I didn't see that till I was older, but I watched it like a few months ago and I was like, this is like brilliant. So that was an example of students really jumping in and wanting to be involved, not at first, but over time with like being able to have a hand in creating their safe space and having somebody listen to what they were going through in their lives. So, but brings me to my next question. Outside of like creating the spaces, like because some schools aren't there yet. Some schools don't have, the assemblies and the, student council. Um, what are the signs that professional help is needed? Like when we're seeing students or like around students, how can we identify that something maybe might be wrong or uh,
I know we kind of touched on some of those key points last week as well, is knowing when there's something wrong with the student. Again, those extreme levels of up and downs, the very highs and the very low lows, where the students may be uncontrollably crying, like you see that deep emotional regulation issue, right? Maybe they're that student that continuously has multiple anger issues in there to the point where now it's a violent anger issue. But they weren't that kid all along. Maybe it's the kid who now all of a sudden is very standoffish, like don't talk to me, don't come near me, don't touch me. Those are all telltale signs that there is something wrong and that student needs some assistance. And the assistance could be simply you having a conversation with them. Outside of that, because again, the students won't be able to receive professional help until the parents get it for them. So even as a school, the most you can offer as a school is the school guidance counselor, the school social worker. They're the ones that are able to kind of walk in, have that conversation before mom and dad signs off to say, yes, my kid needs professional help and can see a therapist one-on-one. As a friend, right, to a student who you feel is in need, the best you can do is walk with your friend to the guidance office. If you really feel so compelled that there is a problem, it's okay to tell an adult. Is your friend gonna be mad? Absolutely, because they're trusting you with a vulnerable piece of them that they don't want you to share with anybody else. But if you feel like that friend needs help, it's okay to tell somebody so that they get the help that they need. Um, but there's always a sign that there is something going on. It's just a matter of, are we taking the time to see it? Are we paying attention? Are we listening? Are we recognizing it when it's happening?
As educators, we need to be super vigilant about our students and their behavior, not only academically, while that's important too, but also how they behave. It's like if they have a sudden shift, we have to notice. It can be demanding, considering like the classrooms are big, but if you notice that like your friend or your friend of a friend, something's going on, it's important to keep that eye, and especially like tell an adult if you see that it's getting worse. It's like absolutely. Like Abby said, your friend's gonna be mad, but it's so much better to get them the help that they need instead of wish that you did when you could have. You know, it's just better.
I don't know if I have much to add to that. I'm very poor on picking up signs other than what is told to me because for me it's hard. When you see, you know, imposter syndrome is a real thing in a lot of people. And sometimes, wearing a disguise, you've been doing it for so long, it becomes second nature. You know what I'm saying? So I try not to judge people on that. Now, like Sis said, there are some pretty blatant signs. I'm not a professional, so I'm not gonna, guesstimate what those signs may look like or sound like or feel like. But I will say this, as having friends in my life, you've been around your friends long enough, you kind of know, what I'm saying? Maybe it's their appearance, maybe it's their demeanor, how they're interacting with their family or other friends. I think, again, just being a good friend is just being mindful, and then I think also it's just, uh, being okay and comfortable to ask your friend, "Hey, man, you good?" or "Sis, you good?" You know, I think instead of putting an onus on your friend to say something, I think you should feel comfortable, not accusatory. Now, I'm not saying, "Hey, you've been tripping lately," not like that. But hey, listen, over the past couple of days or weeks, I noticed like, some things have like the way we talk are different. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not pointing fingers, you're saying the way we talk is different. Or I hear these things in our conversation. It's kind of like really taking all of the ammunition away from them and not judging them and kind of making it a us thing or a we thing. Because it could be anything. You know what I'm saying? So I think like for me, I would feel better if I was a friend to kind of say, "Hey, are we good? Like we got this, we're doing this together. Are we good?" Because I noticed like, we haven't talked much lately, and we used to talk like every day. You know what I'm saying? So I think for me, that's how I would approach that. Because I don't like to I'm really fragile when it comes to trying to help someone because I don't want to come off accusatory, like, "Hey, bro, you don't really talk to me no more. What's up with you?" I don't like that. You know what I'm saying? So I think kind of is just if you're comfortable in how you deliver the message of your caring, because that's what you're doing. You're sharing your caring. It's how you communicate that, I think, is really, really key.
I'm gonna challenge you too, Smith, because you said something that I'm like, mm-mm.
Not the challenge.
Smith said, "I feel like I wouldn't recognize it. Like you feel like you don't pay close enough attention." And I'm challenging that because I'm like, ain't no way you gonna tell me as a coach one of them babies wouldn't come on the field and you wouldn't notice that something is wrong with them after spending that time with them.
Okay,
You have a good point.
yeah, you got me. And I was speaking from the standpoint of a young person in a friendship role, not like right now. Because like clearly now that I'm
Okay,
older,
because I'm
yeah, yeah.
like, Smith.
No. Now that I'm older, I can clearly see like kids I've been around on football, like I know, like off jump. Like, okay, today's not the day for me to be dealing with him because he's on one today. You know what I'm saying? So no. I clearly know that. Well, see, and so again, not to make light of that because that's a very, it's a very important thing.
Right, right.
I'm a father of three human beings who went through toddler and adolescence and teenage and young adults. So I have experience in behavior models. And
I'm
how
just saying,
you
I couldn't help it. I had to challenge it because I'm like, now he gonna sit here and talk to us like he just would not be able to pick up on it because I know better.
no. I'm talking as if I was a friend, a young friend. That was my point on that. That's all. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, to change the perspective.
Absolutely,
That's
absolutely.
right.
And
Which
speaking of
perspectives?
this, I'm gonna give my perspective because
Oh, what's your perspective, Lamar?
I definitely see what y'all are saying. And
You sound so far away.
all right, we back. You hear
Say it
me?
again. Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna say this. Me being around the people I've been around, the signs, if you've been around them long enough, you can definitely tell because like that sudden change in like behavior, it was like, oh, you used to be like this. Now you're a bit like you different. Like you could
Different.
I agree with Uncle Smith on the fact like you don't want to come off like accusatory because that can definitely make the situation worse. Cause like if you come off like you sound like you accusing them of something, they're gonna get like defensive and mad, and like that's the thing you don't want from that situation because if they get all defensive and mad, they're not gonna they're not gonna tell you, and they're gonna feel like they can't trust you with nothing. So and also you have to be able to like tell a trusted adult and that trusted person or like that person that is trustworthy and you know that they can have those kind of that impact because if it's just that person that can't make an impact then why are you telling them? So I just wanted to clarify on that.
I love that perspective, and I love as we're talking about like that piece of sometimes when you come off accusatory, how people shut down, um, is very real, and sometimes it's not easy to ask a question without somebody feeling offended, right? Um,
Absolutely.
but this is also where we know our friend and how our friend sometimes is gonna take things, right? If you've been a friend with somebody long enough, you kind of know how they gonna take it. And
That is
then
definitely true.
but does that mean you should be afraid to ask because you
No,
think they're gonna be offended?
no. It's a
So
it's a needed conversation to have.
Hmm.
It's
And an uncomfortable conversation to have
it's an
is
uncomfortable because it's like having that conversation with like your parents about birds and the bees. Like it's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's needed.
so so listen, um, Lamar, my man, just phenomenal. Um, I have to ask this question to the original question, right? And that is when you say we're going to have these conversations, and they're going to be uncomfortable. I asked this to the panel, and whoever else is listening who has the ability to input. I'm not big on interventions. That whole like sit down in a circle and we're just going to talk to this one person. I really think that's like putting someone on a hot seat in this. They have to defend themselves. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to throw that out there and kind of get a vibe on that because I'm really not big on the whole intervention thing.
that to me goes back to that defensive
Yeah,
because
for sure.
once you put somebody in a situation where they feel like they're being attacked, they're no longer listening to anything you got to say because they're now in defense mode. Like it is, you brought me here for all of you to gang up on me. And even if I have a problem, because I may legit have a problem, there may be something seriously wrong. But now I feel like I have to defend myself against multiple people. I'm a firm believer in one-on-one conversations. I'm having
Mhm.
a conversation with you as a person who's telling me that there's something wrong with me because I got an attitude this week, and clearly my attitude didn't sit well with you. So you coming to me to find out what is the problem. That to me is different than coming at me with four different people to back you up on what you think your feeling is. So yeah, I agree, Smith. I think the and
The one on one is
let's
most
also
helpful.
be clear because that word intervention, like to me, a true intervention. Look, is there a professional sitting in this intervention?
Right.
Because if there's no professional sitting in this intervention, it became a friend bashing session, in my opinion.
And I've been a part of one intervention and I felt so uncomfortable because I don't rock like that. Like I'm that's just not how I rock. You know what I'm saying? And it was a family thing and it just turned foul and raggedy and ugly. Like I said, I prefer to anonymous, let people self account and when they're ready, they're ready. But at the same time, then it's that fine line of walking as a friend next to them, And so, you know what? Let me say this. Sometimes you don't have to say nothing. Think being present and mindful of inside, like, okay, something's not right, but I don't want to push them away or make them put up more barriers. So if I could just stay here and be present, maybe that will help get them to the next available point because that's they have to be approachable, they have to be available, they have to want to. So I think just being present, helping them get there it may just be good enough. And I don't know, I'm just saying maybe. You don't have to just be like, hey, what's going on?
Right.
I think like the impact behind those interventions is that you have multiple people like there to support you. Like when you see it, if you're sitting in a circle and there's everyone staring at you telling you something's wrong, that's horrifying. No one wants to do that. No one wants to be on either side of that. But that's something you can do in like a one-on-one conversation too. Like we all notice, like you can talk to your friends or the circle that you would have that intervention with and come to a consensus, but that doesn't mean they all have to be there. If it's something that everybody notices, like of course, hey, like we all notice, like, are you okay? Like something's been blah 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 blah, but oh my God, that's
So you're
horrifying.
saying you're saying bring on like you have a representative of the group.
Yes, kind of. If that's what you're going for, if you think that that's would be useful, like I said, like you guys know your friends better. Like, if you think that your friend will just be like, oh, well, like you're just being weird if it's just one person that comes up to tell them an intervention thing. But if they think that everyone is also feeling the same thing, I don't know. You
I
figure out
think a
your
lot
friend,
of people,
you
I
know
think a
how
lot
it
of people
works.
got that notion of intervention from watching TV.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that is not what it is, but it's because they watched the show Intervention, and now everybody feels like they can be an intervention moderator.
Right. Right. Facilitator
And what
specialist.
I've read about interventions, it's an intervention isn't necessarily a meeting, it's more so like
Right.
the steps that you take to fix that problem. And I think that's where like things
It's the
get
action
kind of
part.
misconstrued. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Lamar. He always
I,
has the points.
I
Yeah.
have to ask this question, young folks, because we're here. We're here. And I think I just heard it from someone. We're having a discussion about how do we assist someone who we think, has some challenges going on. I noticed the word weird and annoying is used a lot with young people. Like, oh, that person's annoying me. Oh, that person's acting weird.
Yeah.
You know, because I heard that said about teachers. I've heard that said about friends. If you're comfortable and you can see that this person is acting weird or they're annoying, then I think if you have the ability and you're comfortable saying that, then you should be comfortable enough to have a conversation in private with a person who may be experiencing some anxiety for whatever reason. Because I think right now, and I had just wrote to the person that's doing their finals this week. I heard you earlier. I just finished a 6,000 word, no, wait, what is it? 3,000 word, 6-page exam for my final. And it was around social media and how it affects our mental health. And we have to be we can't be so ambiguous about using the word weird and annoying. If you're saying that in the sense of almost a childish behavior, then it's not helpful because then that's a lot. But if someone is truly in an anxiety moment, then we have to be very, very careful on the words we're saying and how we're saying them, because now we're taking what you perceive to be nonchalant slang and kind of exacerbating the situation even more. And I brought that up because I hear it a lot with young people. Oh, they're acting weird or they're annoying, and all they're really doing is just sitting there. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to belittle young people, because I'm probably sure I would behave the same way. But I think it's really important to address some of those things if we're going to address the big things as well.
Yes. And I think this is that part where we say words matter, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
Words with the context.
Words certainly matter. And we know we heard the old school saying, right? Sticks and stones. However, them sticks and stones hurt. Words hurt. And so we have to, like Smith said, we do have to be mindful of what we say and how we say it when we say it. But us as adults also have to be better at providing that example for the youth in order for them to follow that. So I wholeheartedly agree with you, Smith.
And I just want to say, the other week, or was that last week, didn't we talk about how the mind perceives certain words based off our emotions? So it depends on how you approach it. It's not gonna mean the same thing to that person. So you need to tread lightly with that, because it could come off a very different way and have a very different meaning depending on how you go about things. Because if you go about like, you're acting very weird, like a confrontational way, they're just gonna be like, why you talk about me? Like what's up with you? You're like, you've been acting very unusual lately. How can we help you get through this, right? That's different, because you want to see like how you can help them through this hard time and whatever they're going through. So you have to be careful with your context and the connotations and your tones, because that very much matters in that moment to the person. Because not just the words, you gotta be able to say it properly for that context and able to help them in the best way possible, get them through that. That's
Come on now, Lamar. Look, that made me throw up the collection plate. Look at y'all about to look at it. Come on, Lamar.
I got it from you.
Hey.
I got that knowledge from you.
Oh my goodness. This is a great conversation. Like, I'm so appreciative of this conversation and so appreciative of our young people being able to come in the room, hear the conversations, and share their thoughts and opinions as well, because this is what it's all about, right? In order for us to make the change and help create the change, it starts with them. We just here to support. Ooh, Ilani, we're gonna turn it all over to you now, homegirl.
Well, that's all for today. Mental health is just as real and important as your physical health. Recognizing when you're struggling, reaching out for help, and practicing daily self-care are signs of strength, not weakness. Whether you're navigating your own mental health journey or learning how to support someone else, remember this: your voice, your story, and your well-being all matter. Before we go, mark your calendars for our upcoming program open house. Whether you're just getting to know us or ready to join our youth leadership and advocacy programs, this is your chance to see what Step Foundation is all about. May 22 at 6 p.m. Join us virtually at convenient online open house where students and families can ask questions, learn about our program, and see how we can support teen leaders across the region. June 22 at 1 p.m., we're hosting an in-person public open house at the Veterans Memorial Library in St. Cloud. Whether you are student partner or community member, we love to meet you and share how we're building the next generation of change makers. To learn more about our events and programs, Visit www.safefoundation.org and don't forget to follow us on social media, Safe Foundation Inc. You're not alone. You're not too much. You're not too weak needing support. Your mental health matters, and so do you. We are proud to be part of a growing movement where young people are leading the way in mental health awareness, keeping asking questions, seeking the truth, and showing up for yourself and others compassion. Thank you for Talk Tuesday this month. Stay strong, stay curious, and most of all, stay true to yourself. Until next time, inspire, stay empowered, and stay leading the way. Bye.